Um, Brett here. Brett, you're still a. Let me check. It still says you're a listener. Could you? Yeah, it still says that you're listening. Oh, that's really sweet. Okay, let's try to check. I'm gonna refresh. Stuff here. Listen live. Okay, alright. I've reconnected. Let me put on Brett here. Not sure what is happening. Can you guys hear me? No? Mic test? Hello? 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 Mic test? Mic test? Hello? Yeah. Can you guys hear me? Just wanted to check if you guys can hear me. I'm not sure why. Not sure what's happening, but yeah. I hope you guys could hear me. That would be great, right? The mic is too far away. Is this okay? Is this the about this one? Is the mic okay? I think the mic is the problem. I'm still waiting for Brett. Yeah, we have Brett here. Let me invite Brett. Okay, he's a speaker now. All good.
Yep. Can everybody hear me?
Yep, can hear you. All right, I think we're golden. How is my mic? Is my mic okay? Okay. All right. Sounds good on the recordings end as well, so we're perfect. Yeah, let's get started. So, thank you guys so much for joining our weekly Brass AMA with the core team. Um, James wouldn't be able to make it at the moment. Ryan as well. But we're here with our CEO and co-founder Brett. My name is Mark Vincent Bergoli. I'm the community manager for Brass Synergy. Thank you all for being here. We've got a lot of exciting updates to share to you. So let's dive right in, right? So, Brett, before we dive into the updates, do you want to introduce yourself first? Just a brief overview of what you are, what you're building.
here to be able to change that. We're creating a vetted talent ecosystem that sources, validates, and matches talent, companies, and opportunities in a standardized and cost cutting way. Now, in terms of the updates from last week, even though it was 4th of July in the States, we did have a ton of different progress. So the first is that we did receive some commitments from investors, which is fantastic. And I also have meetings with investors this week, as well as the coming weeks for our friends and family slash pre-seed round. We also received some update on the Genesis Pass Upwork. So we have gotten the latest version of the designs. We were able to grow it, take the information in a bunch of different areas, and we've now narrowed down the exact concept that we want to be able to move forward with. And we're coordinating with him this week to be able to do a check-in call, and we should have the final artwork designed ready within the next few weeks. With regards to the development side of things, our interview as a service, which we'll dive into a little bit later on, we've continued to be forming different councils and relationships with people who are really subject matter experts in a bunch of different areas. I made a bunch of partnerships with different CEOs and different funds, which benefits Genesis Pass holders. And we had continued conversations with a bunch of different AI and machine learning companies that actually have deals with companies like Apple and NVIDIA. And then on the community side, we have skyrocketed our growth. So we're actually at just over 5,500 people. We now have over 23,000 followers on Twitter, and our allow list for the Genesis Pass NFT is just under 6,000, which is incredible. So that's a couple of updates that we have had on the project this week, as well as my background. Mark, I'll kick it over to you to be able to share a little bit more about your background. We'll dive into the Genesis Pass, turn it over to some quick Q&A, and then dive deeper into the interview as a service. So Mark, anything on your background you want to add?
Yep. Thank you so much, Brett. Really appreciate that. So, how I started with Web3 is very, very streamlined, honestly. Um, well, I started my journey when I was training people in different call centers, training them on how to speak in English, how to communicate effectively, or how to answer effective customer service, right? With clients such as PayPal, Amazon, Shopee, or those were the top three that I've worked with before. So I was a training manager there for 3 years, and then I realized that there's no growth on that, so I decided to start from scratch, start from zero, totally work from home. I found Accelerate, started as a moderator, worked my way up as a assistant community manager, and then community manager, and then me and James sold out a bunch of projects, moved up to a training director wherein we helped out thousands and thousands of people get certified either as a moderator or a community manager. And then I was offered the position of becoming COO. And then after that, we've actually we're in talks with Brett. James and Brett were in talks about building Brett Synergy. I was a fan of the idea, and then I fell in love with the team, right? So working with them has been really awesome. There is ups and downs, but every challenges were accomplished for sure. It's because how the team is amazing, how the team is consistent with everything, and yeah, we're building something great here. And we honestly, guys, couldn't thank you enough for being here. So appreciate you guys for being here. So if you have any questions around what we are, what is Breast Synergy, what is the Genesis Pass, or what is an interview as a service, you can drop that question over, or you can send that question over at the this particular space, because if you ask a question or just send in any vibe or very awesome community tweet or whatever, you actually will have a chance to win a Genesis Pass that costs about that has tons of value. for you guys. So, Insane Value, right? But yeah, bringing it over to Brett to discuss around the interview as a service, and then after that, we answer some questions that we have from the people.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mark. So, everybody, when we talk about interview as a service, if you remember back to kind of the three goals of what we're wanting to do with this project, really connect good people to good projects, minimize scams, and be able to make a transformative impact in the world at large. And when we started looking at that, we looked at the interview process as a whole because all of us have built, managed, hired, interviewed people in Web 2 and Web 3, and we knew the process was broken. And so we went at this being able to say, whatever the hiring costs are, whether it's time, energy, and money, we believe that we could be able to cut them by up to 80% by simply being able to accurately assess what makes somebody successful in a position, being able to determine whether an individual has that, and then being able to connect them to a role that makes sense on a deeper level. So we talk about interview as a service. If you're a company and maybe you're a non-technical founder and you don't know how to interview for a particular position, or you're a founder and you just don't have the time to be able to do it, us being able to jump in and being able to find talent from our database. Many of you are familiar with our bot. We have over 500,000 users in the bot. It's over 90 different communities. Being able to identify what are some skills that could be successful in that position, and then being able to match them with an opportunity, we can streamline the process for the employer. And on the employee side, it's very difficult to be able to vet if a company is legit or not. And even if you could do that, really understand, is it a good fit for you? So whether you're someone that's just starting out in the industry and you're looking to gain your first job or experience, maybe you're looking to transition into Web3, you're looking for freelancing projects, you're looking at uh, being able to see whether or not things can be able to grow, or you're looking to be able to capitalize on your experience for a C-suite level position, we can be able to help with that. And the way we do it is we're creating the world's largest verified talent and opportunity database, allowing people global, unparalleled access to one another. And the way we do it is that you can go through the bot and be able to create a profile. And then what we're working on right now with the interview as a service is that you can answer questions via surveys, and then we pair them on a detailed criteria. Now, for many of you, that may sound super basic, but it's because we're making it sound basic. It's actually really difficult because interviews today cost trillions of dollars worldwide, oftentimes because interviewers don't know how to properly assess candidates at that deeper level. It's oftentimes why you need to be able to see multiple rounds of interviews, or you hire somebody because they look great in an interview, only to realize when they're in the real setting, they just don't fit. They could be a great person, they could have the qualifications for the job, or maybe they don't fit with their manager or other team members. And so there's a deep science to the questions as well as the answers. And so what we're doing and what we've kind of hinted at over the past couple weeks is we're building an international council comprised of the world's best engineers, product people, psychologists, data scientists, community managers, Web3 experts, AI experts across the world. So that way we can create the best questions to be able to verify these different skills, accounting for things like personality, culture, and country. By gathering the data on these people and being able to connect them with the right opportunities, we can leverage things like AI to be able to understand and be on the cutting edge of skills. So ultimately, if you're looking for a job or an opportunity or a gig, we can connect you to what makes the most sense, whether you're just starting off or looking for C suite, Or if you're a company, we can be able to focus on validating and finding talent that match with what you're doing. So that way you as a business owner can focus on building your company rather than being able to handle the interview. And when we look at this, it really is staggering how much it saves both employers and talent. So if you're a business, especially a startup, think about the last bad hire that you had or the hire that you may make, depending on what it is. If it's a marketer, a developer, maybe you have somebody do your tokenomics. If it's set up improperly, you can have a token sale and the project can die right after. Maybe it's a graphic designer for an NFT. If the art isn't on point, the utility isn't on point, the community isn't on point, and you launch an NFT, it could be able to die. And if the mint goes poorly or the token sale moves poorly, we can be able to account for it that way. And I see that Mark is saying that there's a lot of people that are having difficulties, technical
Yep,
difficulties.
yep. I can hear you here on the PC. I've tried my phone and tablet. Unfortunately, I can't hear a thing. So it might be an issue with Twitter Spaces. So I've asked the general chat if they're interested in moving it to Discord for now, because most of our audience are actually there. So do you want to move the Discord, the AMA there for now?
Yeah, I think that's great. Let's post the Discord in the chat. We'll join there and we'll give it a couple minutes and we'll just do everything in Discord for today.
Yep. Let's do that right now. I'll start the Genesis AMA then. Alright, see you
Perfect.
there.
Thanks so much, guys. Join us in our Discord to continue.
Okay, alright. You guys can hear me. Mic test. Hello. Join us on the Discord server. Current Twitter technical difficulty and technical issue. When people cannot hear us. Discord strategy. Yes, sending the tweet out. It's sent. Alright, welcome guys. I hope you guys can hear me. I can hear myself, but thank you guys so much for coming in. Just want to test out. Right. There was issues with Discord, unfortunately. Now it's audible. Alright, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dev. It's good to see you back here. Yeah, it's audible here. So let's wait for the others for like 2 minutes, like at least 2 minutes. We do apologize for these issues. Unfortunately, it's with Twitter itself. There is an issue with the space. I've tried it with my tablet and phone. Unfortunately, Elon is ragging us at the moment. So yeah, all questions that you guys have here will be included as a submission for for next week's raffle entry. So please, if you have any questions, send it in. We'll be happy to answer all your questions. But Brett, if it's okay, if we could repeat what is the interview as a service so that we could share that to the whole audience, here, that would be perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. We can be able to do that. We'll give it a couple of minutes to just to be able to get everybody back in over here and be able to continue on from there.
All right. So who was having some issues other than me, the Joy, and then the rest of the people who were having issues with the you know with the what's it called with the Twitter space? Because some of the people here are on PC, they can't hear a thing. I was on mobile, I can't hear a thing. So just wanted to get a clarification from you guys so that when I submit a ticket over Twitter, it's just all good. They explain everything. They fix everything. All right. I'll gather all the questions that we have from the people here. Crypto Rio.
Yeah. Well, Mark, while you're doing that, I will kind of reiterate the interview as a service, and then we'll bring it over to kind of questions for the group, because I see we got a lot of questions on the Genesis Pass and things like that, so that we'll keep it as interactive as possible for today's session.
Alright, sounds good. Thank you so much, Brett. Appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. Okay, guys, so the interview as a service, because I know a lot of you weren't able to hear all of that, but the idea behind it is we want to be able to streamline and eventually automate the interview process as a whole. So, what we mean by that is that if you look at the hiring process and interview process right now, it's completely broken. A lot of times you will submit an application and recruiters and interviewers get bogged down. And so they're using AI to try and be able to basically take resumes off the top. And so you could have, if 100 people to apply to a position, you could have 50 of them that don't even actually get an interview. And then during the actual interview process, you have to think that a lot of times it's 30 minutes or an hour per round. And when you look at that, over 50 candidates, that's 50 hours, which is a lot of time and a lot of money. And a lot of times when you look at it, if you're an individual, it's very difficult to be able to verify the legitimacy of the company. And even if you could verify a company is legitimate, how do you know if it's a good fit for you? So all of that is what the interview as a service can be able to cover. It's really a pre-interview platform that is designed to prevent scams, false advertised skills, and ensure quality, talent, and opportunity fits. So if you're a business that doesn't know how to interview for a particular position, or you don't have the time to be able to do it, we can be able to handle that for you. And if you're a person that's looking for an opportunity, you don't know if the company's legitimate or not, you don't know if the company is legit, but how do you make sure that the manager that you're working with is legitimate or not either? And so the idea is that what we want to do is create a world where, with a touch of the button, you could be able to indicate that you're open to work. And in seconds, that profile can be matched with opportunities. The application can be completely streamlined. And we do it because we've been able to verify both parties. And because we understand what skills and characteristics make a successful person in a particular role, we can be able to highlight that within your portfolio, which gets you to the top of the applications. And so if we use the example from before, where an interview process could be 50 hours because they have to interview 50 candidates and it's an hour apiece, we can then be able to set it up to where maybe they only have to interview 5 candidates. And because we've taken the pre-interview process out of it, it's 30 seconds or 30 minutes. So we've taken 50 hours and taken it down to what would be 2.5. And so that's the monetary value in order to be able to use the Genesis Pass as a whole. And so the way we're doing it is we're creating the largest verified jobs and talent database in the entire world, allowing global access to everybody. And then we have talent and companies answer questions via surveys, and then we pair them based on that detailed criteria. So when we look at that and when we think about it, it can sound super basic, but it's incredibly deep because there's a deep science to the questions and a deep science to the answers. And so we've created international councils of the world's best engineers, product people, C-suites, psychologists, data scientists. When I'm talking about partnerships with or connections to Apple, Tesla, Amazon, NVIDIA, And major Web3 brands, we're able to have communications with them and say, what has made successful product people in your organization? And they may give us different skill sets. And we could start in a very niched approach with just one role, for example. We could go vertically, meaning that we could start, if we go with community managers, we could do everything from a moderator to a community manager to a senior community manager to a head of growth to a chief community officer. And once we demonstrated that we could be able to identify the skills and characteristics that are successful and pair people in that, then maybe we branch out into design, business development, smart contract development. And over a very quick period of time, we can be able to showcase that we could not only identify and match people with these skill sets, but we now have relationships and pipelines with some of the top Web 2 and Web 3 communities in the entire world. And we're not only setting you up for that initial job, but because we're going so much deeper, understanding you at an essence level, it's not only setting you up for success within this role, but all your future roles within the organization. And so an example of that may be measuring things like leadership. It's very difficult to be able to evaluate leadership as a whole because when you think about it, people are complex and there's a ton of different areas of communication, collaboration, empathy, how you handle pressure, and doing that through automation is incredibly difficult. But when you think about it, vibes, micro expressions are simply a manifestation of what is inside someone. So it's not the thing themselves, but a pathway to the questions and scenarios that can be able to measure those different things. And by being able to do that, we add a layer of defensibility because we can showcase that we can identify leadership, we can identify communication, collaboration. And over time, we know that these are skills that transcend. It's not just important for people to be able to communicate effectively as a community manager. It's the same thing for a developer, but it's a different type of communication that allows you to excel in that role. So that's a very high level breakdown of kind of the interview as a service as a whole. And I see that we have a ton of questions within the feed. Mark, I know you've been queuing them, and I'm also going to go through the feed here as well. So we'll take some time for some questions as a whole. Okay, so the first one is, what is the difference between Brass Energy and the Genesis Pass? So the Genesis Pass is the pinnacle asset of Brass Energy. So Brass Energy is the company, it is the brand, but the Genesis Pass is your access to everything we're talking about and everything we will ever develop in our ecosystem. So what I explained is all the data that we're collecting from the bot as well as the interview as a service. The long-term plan is we can integrate that into a marketplace where we can be able to have everything that we've talked about previously, where you have the ability to not only match people for full-time opportunities, but also freelance work. So I know that's been a huge thing that we've talked about long-term is how do you be able to set that up? Putting our matching algorithm into that marketplace, putting all of the AI agentic system that we talked about with the bot into a fully fledged platform. So you can be able to have a full interface to be able to find those opportunities completely passively. And the idea is that that data grows and grows and grows. And it's not just for Web3. It allows us to expand into Web 2. And every single position and department that you could be able to think of. So that's the difference between the Genesis Pass and Brass Synergy. Okay, how do you convince a company or a project or even an individual to use Brass as a platform for seeking talents? That's a great question. So The idea is that you do it specifically how that's kind of a marketing thing as a whole. So the idea is that you build value and trust on the quality of the counterparty that you're looking for. So what I mean by that is you're naturally going to attract top talent if you have partnerships with top brands. So being able to look at having partnerships with Apple, Tesla, Nvidia, Google, and then on the Web3 side, being able to have relationships with Cyberfrogs, Famous Fox Federation, uh, Futureverse, Yuga Labs, major brands like that are going to attract top talent. And that's why we're focusing so much on the councils, because we have relationships and pipelines with those communities, we're going to attract top talent. And you're going to be able to work with those businesses are going to want to work with you because you're attracting top talent and you're able to do those matching a lot more effectively and a lot quicker. Because ultimately, a business, they're wanting to try and find the best fit, but also they're wanting to be able to do it for the quickest and simplest way possible. So what that means is that they're wanting to try and be able to save money, meaning that they're wanting to hire the right people, they're not wanting to have constant turnover, and they're wanting to make sure that if we can be able to fill that position in for a recruiter, if we can save them the hours in the example that I brought up, that gives them confidence that maybe they can hire two people for the same dollar amount, get more production, and be able to expand their business even quicker. So really, really good question from Benny. So, Crypto Curator, from my knowledge so far about Genesis Pass, is it only for freelancers? What other skills could one possess to have access to the great opportunity Genesis Pass wants to offer? So, the Genesis Pass is not just for freelancers, it is for anybody that is either looking for opportunities in the Web3 market or is looking to hire in the Web3 market. And the idea is that long term, it will expand from Web3 into Web2. So if you are a freelancer, you are actively working in Web3, you're actively investing in Web3, you're learning about Web3, the Genesis Pass could be able to benefit you as a whole because it's giving you access to the Genesis Club where all of these relationships and partners can be able to be there. You could be able to learn about these different opportunities. You can learn the skills that you need to be a viable candidate if you want to be able to work. You can learn about investment opportunities that are in the space. All of that right now is being channeled through the bot and is going to continue to do so moving forward. So Dev123 cool. Through all the hype related to AI, what sets your platform aside from others and what are you doing to ensure privacy? Also, basically what you put together is a brass, if I'm correct. How do you ensure the accuracy of information and data if you're using third parties for that content? So that is a fantastic question, Dev123. So the big thing here and the ways that we are separating is not just the data, but fundamentally, it's the source of the questions. Because the data itself is only as good as the question that you're getting. And the reason why I say that is that you could think about data like an answer. And so to get to the right information that you need data-wise, you need to be asking the correct question. And this is why the councils are such a big part of our strategy. Because at the end of the day, there are people that are doing interviews out there all over the world. But what they don't do effectively is they can't identify the skills that are required to excel in a role. And more importantly, they don't know what questions to ask to be able to understand if somebody innately has that. And so what we're doing is a combination of the questions that we're asking, which could be multiple choice, it could be scenario based, it could be all sorts of different things. And by being able to do it on a global scale, we're not just taking into account what works in the United States. So you could have multiple choice questions, it could be open-ending questions, it could be a third-party API like what you're talking about. Some of the things you could be able to verify via third-party API, but when you combine a human-centric element and data that we own, that's first-party data, rather than simply third-party data, the closer you are to the source, the more ways that you're able to authenticate and validate it, the more valuable that data becomes. And so the idea is that all of this information in our software feeds into the broader verification and matching algorithms that are in place to affect what's going on globally. And so without going too deep into detail with everything, because a lot of it's proprietary, I will say that one of our lead advisors that I'm talking with has created an algorithm with 4.5 billion data points. And he's done it for governments worldwide. He's done it for all sorts of organizations. You're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. And the way that we are doing it is a methodical approach to be able to grow. But that's how we're ensuring security and stability as well as reliability and being able to test it as we grow. Good question. How are Brass linked to real world skills, qualification, and experience from Dev123 Cool? So this again goes back to what we were talking about. So some of it will be third-party API verifications, which we already have both public and private data sources and relationships with different universities. So some of it's easy to be able to authenticate. Some of the other ones, when it comes to the business and technical skills, will be on the verification assessments that I just broke down previously, as well as a human component. So kind of like what you see on LinkedIn, where you could be able to endorse people's skills. But the difference here is that there will be a weighted portion to it. The idea being that if you had, I don't know, we'll use an extreme example. If you had Elon Musk be able to verify that you worked for him and you had technical development ability, that's going to give you a lot more value than somebody who's down the street that says, hey, my buddy was able to code this and you don't have any background on them. And so it all feeds into one another, where we could be having multiple layers to the algorithm as a whole, as well as linking to the actual skills. So what are Brass's plans for global expansion? Is the current focus on market expansion, building and development, acquiring customers and users, or forming partnerships? So the plan for global expansion is that phased approach that I broke down. So right now, the focus is on testing, creating partnerships, and being able to generate revenues as a proof of concept. So what we've been doing with the bot is we're gathering all sorts of data on different areas that we can be able to focus on for the interview as a service. And we've gone back and forth on how and when to be able to monetize the bot on a community and business basis, as well as a talent basis. And the reason why we haven't monetized the bot yet is, in our mind, we want to be able to provide a supreme amount of value before charging users premium features. And so the idea is that what we can do right now is gather different data, like what are the most in-demand jobs? What are the opportunities that our community is looking for as a whole? What is the demographics of our community? What projects and experiences do they have, so we can provide value short-term for the interview as a service, be as niched as possible in the beginning, expand out from one department across all departments vertically and horizontally, then being able to expand into a marketplace where we can be able to hit people that are looking for not just investments and part-time jobs, but are looking to be more of the freelancing type. And then from there, being able to hit enterprises. So short-term, focusing on generating revenues by being able to develop the interview as a service, monetize the bot through different types of partnerships. How are you future-proofing Genesis Pass against potential market turns or technological changes from Amabe? So the way that we're doing that is by having multiple different revenue streams across the board and being able to tie it to independent factors from the Web3 market. And what I mean by that is that part of what we're doing is trying to be able to penetrate both Web3 and Web2 and have relationships with Web2 brands. So that way we're not impacted by as much by the Web3 market. So if you think about it like a portfolio, if you invest only in one company and that company goes down, you have a lot greater risk than if you diversify into 10 companies, let alone if you diversify into companies in Web3 versus Web2. We're doing the same thing with that with jobs. We also expanded to opportunities. So not just looking for jobs, but looking for businesses that are looking to be able to raise. Maybe there's a mint that's upcoming, or a token that's upcoming, or a product that's going to be featured. And when we're having conversations with different communities and different partners, it's not just around what jobs are you trying to hire for? It's how can we be able to provide value to you as an organization? And how can you be able to provide value to our community? And so we'll use an example like CyberFrogs. CyberFrogs is a phenomenal opportunity and community. We have direct connection with Andy, who's the founder of CyberFrogs. They're looking at us as not only a way to be able to staff with top talent, but also looking at being a part of their potential airdrops. Same thing with Galactic Geckos. Galactic Geckos gets a ton of airdrop opportunities because they're known as diamond holders. How can we be able to provide value to those organizations? Maybe staffing them with talent, maybe creating opportunity and awareness of those projects, and be that connecting point for opportunities in Web3. And so by doing that, we're not just limiting ourselves to jobs, it's opportunities, it's airdrops, it's bounties, it's giveaways, as well as jobs in the broadest sense from a marketplace standpoint. And when you combine that with the data that we're collecting, the fact that we are doing Twitter Spaces on a weekly basis with our community, and we have multiple different ways to generate revenue, and we're reinvesting that back into the company, we're not as concerned with the short-term growth and value. We're concerned with the long-term success of this project. So if there is a bear market in the future, we understand that naturally projects aren't going to be hiring, but projects may be building. Projects may want feedback from the community. Everybody's looking for talent acquisition and customer acquisition and feedback. And so we could be that hybrid marketplace and that melting pot of, if you're looking for opportunities in Web3, whatever that means to you, you can be able to find it through Brass. So Blue, when NFT sales occur, can I have more than one NFT? Yes, you definitely can. So you can be able to buy as many NFTs as you would like. We are going to restrict the amount that you can buy in a per round basis, meaning that because our allow list is now just under 6,000, and we're planning on only minting and selling a maximum of 2,000, breaking it up into pre-sales versus the mint, you will be able to buy a maximum of what would be 5 in the pre-sale and the allow list round, but once it hits mint, you could buy as many as you would like. And keep in mind that right now, that's just based on our initial interest. And if you're somebody that wants to be a massive whale, we could be able to coordinate directly with you. So case in point, we had a community that was interested in buying 500 right now for our pre-sale. And so we're going to be actively communicating with them because that would represent 50% of the pre-sale supply. And what we want to do is we want to get these NFTs into the hands of people that'll use the platform. So Blue, I would say reach out to Mark or James, and we could be able to coordinate a conversation and get in a chat to see what makes sense for you, as well as anybody else who's interested in owning more than 5 Genesis passes. But 500 is kind of the most that we've heard of. Most people are wanting to have between 3 and 5. One to be able to kind of flip long term, and then a couple to be able to hold and compound those benefits. Ababe, how do you see the Genesis Pass influencing the culture within the Brass Energy community? I think that the biggest shift with that will be bringing in a lot of new community members. And what I mean by that is more different types of groups of people. So I think you're going to have a large group with every airdrop that's just looking for a short-term flip. And I also think you're going to have a large group of people that are really interested in the project long-term and are looking at the freelancer marketplace standpoint, or are looking at it from a business perspective where I can buy one NFT, and if I ever hire one person, I've made my money back tenfold. Any position out there, any normal fee that I would be able to pay to be able to hire somebody, whether it's a freelancer for $1,000 or a full-time employee, I will be able to make the money back. So I think that's going to be the most immediate impact. I think there's also a lot of people who are interested in being part of a podcast and really being able to connect and do more partner AMAs. I think that will occur post mint. Okay, Dev123 Cool. Can you elaborate on the mechanisms Brass will use to ensure that merit-based evaluation system is not biased or discriminatory? So that is one of the key things that we talked about. And one of the things that we wanted to be able to do is add additional data points. And when we reach a certain point, minimize resume uploads and job posting uploads. It makes for a large platform very quick, but it dilutes the value. So the idea is that once a user uploads their information into their profile and everything is validated, the AI tool will be able to scrape and generate the resume and cover letter for them. And when companies post jobs in the feed, the job matching process therefore becomes unbiased because it's based on the profile information of the candidate rather than simply somebody paying to be able to go to the top of the pile. And the value add for the software is no bias and a clear timeline upward. So you can have an algorithm that allows you to be able to promote certain skills and qualifications, but the idea is that the more surface area and more data points that you have, the more nuanced you could be able to get. So case in point, a job posted right now on LinkedIn, for example, great platform for networking. You could be able to say that you could have the position title, the salary, whether it's remote or in person, basic qualifications. Whereas you could be able to go with our software, you could be able to say, these are the hours that I want to be able to have worked. Here is the language level that I want to be able to have. Here on the cognitive spectra is what I want them to be focused on from a psychographic standpoint. We've identified that the best person for a community manager, for example, would be, it could be gender neutral. It's somebody that has this specific personality type, maybe has this experience, maybe works well in an environment that is constantly changing and adapting, has these language skills, plus they're looking for this experience, this time zone, this this type of project. Maybe they're interested in an early stage project because they're better at building a community from 500 to 5,000 than they are from 5,000 to 10,000. And Mark can be able to attest to this as well. It's a completely different skill set, building versus maintaining and scaling. And so by just adding 4 or 5 more data points, it gets infinitely more nuanced and it makes it much more unbiased. So you don't have to be able to say that you want a male or female or from this jurisdiction. It's just these qualifications, which creates equal opportunity for everybody. We also saw the question of, is your platform suitable for crypto beginners, or is it only appealing to professional users? So the idea is that it would be available for anybody. We want to, again, be the melting pot for people that are just getting into Web3, are fully experienced in Web3, or are never have opened a wallet, never transacted in Web3, because a lot of the businesses that we're talking with that are massive brands, they don't operate with, they don't pay in crypto, they pay in fiat. And so we wanted to design something that is newbie friendly, as well as for new individuals that are entering the marketplace. It's a good question. Next, here in my country, there's an airline. They have a job application process directly to the company. In the applicant, you need a symbolic amount. The statement the airline made was to prevent a flood of applicants and higher cost management. A possibility for applicants to use Genesis Pass NFTs to be listed higher in the job application process, a new approach to LinkedIn Premium, but in a tokenized way. So Dev123 Cool, that is exactly what we are using the Genesis Pass for. So the idea is that it's an unbiased way. So you as a candidate are going to be evaluated, and same thing on the business side. It's purely an unbiased way. But once they have those stacks of, we use the 100 candidates example, of 100 candidates that apply to a position, let's say that 50 are thrown out that don't meet the qualifications. Our software then could be able to go through and take that 50 and narrow it down to 5. Of the 5, the person that could be weighted highest, assuming everything else is relatively equal, is the individual that has the Genesis Pass NFT, because they can be able to add additional data points, or because they can be able to get more visibility. Same thing on the company side. So if the idea is I want to maximize the amount of opportunities that I can be able to have, whether it's work, events, education, investment, getting the Genesis Pass gives that to you. And it also allows you to add custom data points. So as you asked earlier, what is our plan for global expansion? Every company isn't going to be the same. Certain companies are going to look for different unique features that they have identified. And it could not even necessarily be in tech. Once we have the framework and we've demonstrated that we can be able to do this in technical and non-technical roles, we can go to a company and do a 1-2 hour power session with them and say, you're looking for X candidate. Or you're not even hiring, you're just looking to optimize your organization. What are the key criteria that you look for that are aligned with your values? And what does that exactly mean to you? Because entrepreneurial spirit could mean one thing for one company and a completely different for another. And once we have that information, we can then test it, we can then design it, and now we've integrated within a full HR platform. And now every hire that they do, they're using our platform and our formula, which means that the candidates that are going to show and have the greatest chance for those opportunities, whether it's jobs, whether it's investment, are our community members. So the value is by joining and being a part of our community early on, hopefully you can leverage us to find opportunities, make a transformative impact, get connected with great investments, great people, be able to make a difference for your community, your family, be able to make money, invest back into projects that are a part of the ecosystem, and the cycle completes itself and it just continues on. And so we look out 3, 4, 5, 8, 10 years, and Brass Energy as a whole has a 100 million plus treasury. We've got tens of thousands of success stories, people being able to find jobs. We've got thousands of people that have taken those skills, identified problems in the marketplace, launched businesses, used our community as like an angel investment group, and entirely from our ecosystem, we're able to go from knowing nothing to being able to get a job, to being able to create opportunity for others, to being able to hire using our platform. And again, the cycle continuously grows and completes itself. So next, Blue. Will there be some offline offices in the future or strictly remote in terms of conferences and other future events? So the idea is that we do want to do in-person events. I don't know exactly when that is going to be, but there will be plans for that in the timeline. We're actually talking with a connection tomorrow that hosts multiple Web3 events. I do not want to give them away. And I've also previously, I met with several individuals when I flew to London to be able to pitch Brass, and they want us to be a part of different events as well. And I've got countless connections now to different PR companies that want us to be a part of, whether it's an anti-scam event, or it's a job hiring event, or it's an investment event. Being able to plug into these different platforms and events to create more value for you. And again, that all ties back to the Genesis Pass because users who hold it will be able to get a ticket to all future events. So as we expand, if we host a job person event and we invite 500 Web 2 and Web 3 brands and tickets are $500 or $1,000, your Genesis Pass is your access. And so a lot of people are using it for that very reason because they see what we're building and they're looking at it saying 50, 60, 100, even $200 or $500, I can get 3 or 4 or 5 of these. And I know that any event in the future, I can be able to go and I've paid for it. If I hire one person, I basically tripled my money. If I go to one event, I doubled my money. And by holding it, I get a piece of what we're creating and what we're building from a revenue perspective. Dev123 Cool. With the aim of decentralizing marketplaces and empowering the unbanked and debanked, how does Brass plan to address any potential challenges related to accessibility, such as internet connectivity issues or limited technological infrastructure in certain regions? So this, Mark, what I want to do is I want to save this question for next week because James can go super in depth with this. For those of you who don't know, James actually just moved into a new house in the middle of the jungle. And we actually talked a little bit about this because he's dealing with it right now. He's using Starlink and a bunch of other different things. But as we continue to be able to grow, one of the things that we want to do is be able to have a philanthropic portion of Brass. Do we take a portion of the revenues that we generate and we use it for things like what you just brought up, Dev123 Cool, whether it's financial education, it's environment, it's creating a proper infrastructure for opportunity. And so one of the things could be that, and I'm just giving an example, I want to be very clear that we're not in the position to do this, but as we expand, we could be able to create talent communities, which would be in-person hubs based on where a bunch of our users are located. So maybe you're in Africa, for example. We just closed a partnership with over 40,000 freelancers that are in Africa in various cities. Being able to have a hub there to be able to put in infrastructure for electricity and internet. So that way, and it's sponsored by Brass. That could be a philanthropic thing that we do. Or like what was just brought up by Blue, to be able to host an in-person event. Maybe we host an in-person event and that's part of it, to where we coordinate with local infrastructure to be able to host a job event. And while we're doing that, we work with local resources to be able to make sure that there's a proper infrastructure in place, not only just utilities, but other proper business leaders. Because this is a system that is transferable and is really global expansion opportunities. Okay, so those are all the questions in the chat. Mark, I'm sure we have a ton more that we could be able to go through. I'm scrolling through the feed right now just to make sure that we got as much of this answered as possible. I have to ask you guys while we're in here, do you guys feel like we answered a lot of the questions? Do you have any follow-up questions to it? Because I feel like we had a lot of engagement right now in Discord. I mean, hundreds of different messages that are there, but I'm just curious.
The people are chatting. We were just having fun at the end. Like, while we were listening to you, people were just having fun on the chat. I think most of the questions was answered. Like 95% of the questions were answered. Insane.
I think I did pretty decent. I'm just scrolling through right now just to make sure. Because there's probably some good one. Did we answer Elang's? Is there a specific month or date right now when the Genesis Pass NFT will be launched? Right now, we are targeting August, but that's dependent on our design from our designer, which I anticipate is going to be done by the end of this month. Two is looking into the data with the amount of users that are on the allow list and making sure that we can be able to do whatever is possible on our end to be able to sell it out. That being said, existing community members will have the first access to the pre-sale. So previously we were talking about having the price for the pre-sale be a half a SOL and working our way up to a mint price of 1 SOL for the public sale. Now, keep in mind that that could be able to change, but once all those details are fully finalized in terms of date and price, you guys will have first access. And if there is enough interest, we may go back and be able to Blue's question, can we have more than NFT? I'm not going to restrict any of our existing community members from being able to buy only a certain amount. So right now we have over 5,500 people in Discord. If every single person in there wants to be able to buy one or buy multiple, we will be able to accommodate and look at different things. But right now, our plan is to be able to sell a total of 2,000, and we were limiting it to 3 to 5 for the pre-sale. But if we sell out the full 2,000 in the pre-sale, we're totally fine to be able to run with that. It's a great question. And Mark, I'm sorry, I know we're a little bit over. I'm just looking at the end. Okay. So while I'm scrolling, how was this for you guys? I feel like this is going to be huge. And we covered a lot of ground today. Mark's going to send everybody his address. Okay. Okay. Marketplaces had Dev123 cool. Marketplaces have real world use case. You're fighting against giants like Uber, eBay, which are billions of dollars worth of companies. The hardest task in crypto is to have a platform, product, users. How will you be able to attract workers and users to our platform? I feel like we already touched on that a little bit. One is the ease of accessibility. Two is making it extremely user-friendly. And three is the quality of the counterparty that's on there through the questions, which we've already validated. I mean, the fact that with $0 marketing, we already were able to create relationships with over 100 communities. And literally, if you can think about it as a global tech brand, we're in communications with it. So, but Mark, I think we're in a good spot right now to be able to do the, spin the wheel. Next week's going to be interesting. We're going to have, like, just from this, 20, 30 people on it.
This was actually more engaging than what we had on Twitter, which is insane, guys. Thank you guys so much. So we have the wheel here. Take note, this is from last week's wheel, by the way. So you might be wondering, Mark, why am I not here? It's fine. If you're not here, you will be available. Oh, sorry, not available. You will be on the wheel for next week. It's because the team carefully checks everyone on the recording, right? I want to make sure that everything is all good, accounted for, and then we spin the wheel for this week's winner next week. So yeah. All right, so let's spin the wheel. Can I get a Brass Synergy logo just to see? Can I get a Brass Synergy logo? Send it in for. Come on, guys, send it in. Alright, we got some going for sure. Alright. Okay.
And I'll just add, I know a lot of people are asking whenever the Genesis Pass NFT is going to be. Believe me, we're incentivized to try and do it sooner rather than later. Because as you see, every week that it stretches out, we give away one more for free. And keep in mind that if you win a Genesis Pass NFT, you're still eligible to be able to buy others. Again, the more that you hold and the more that you own, the benefits are going to be able to stack. And so just like we talked about today on the interview as a service and the benefits of the Genesis Pass to that, last week we talked about the bot. We still have the marketplace. We've got the academy. We got a ton of value that we're going to be unlocking with this. And so that's why we have people that are asking for so many, because they realize that if I think the number was if you buy 33, you basically get $100,000 worth of benefits. Something crazy. Maybe it was 50. I'd have to go back and look, but it's insane. So we'll keep you guys updated on that. And without further ado, Mark, spin that thing.
Alright. I think someone's knocking, guys. It feels realistic. Yeah, you might be wondering, Mark, how come I'm not here? You will be there next week, for sure. Alright? So, yeah. Oh, 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 oh.
Oh. Is it a Langs or is it going to be Benny?
Is it Benny
Oh.
Maro? Is it?
Oh.
Is it Benny Maro?
I think it's going to be Benny.
Benny, where are you? Where are you? Stop! Alright, congratulations to Benny. Let's go! Congratulations, guys. And for the people who asked the question, engaged in the chat here on Discord and on Twitter, expect your name on the wheel. Alright? So, next week, don't miss the session next week because if you win, just like Crypto Bay before, fortunately, Crypto Bay won last week, right? But Crypto Bay was able to win on our third AMA, but he was not around, so he was not able to get the win. But if you miss the chance that you're not here on the call next week, you will be missing out thousands and thousands of value. So yeah. You should be here, guys. But thank you guys so much. Appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you, Brett, for speed running all the questions. We really appreciate you for doing an amazing job here. Thank you so much for Brass Energy. Thank you guys so much. Brett, anything you'd like to say before we go?
Yeah, just reiterating what you said, Mark. Thank you guys for all of this. The one question that I would ask, and we could talk about it in the general chat, is where to be able to host this moving forward, because it seems as though we've had some recent problems on Twitter recently. So just trying to be able to understand like how we can be able to get the most engagement across the board, and then figure out what happened on Twitter as a whole. But again, thank you guys so much for everything. I know we're way over on time. So we'll continue to have conversations with you guys. As always, if you have any ideas, questions, comments, concerns, feel free to put them in the chat. We do go through everything manually. And also, if you don't give Mark his flowers and recognition, he does so much behind the scenes. Like, you guys have no idea. So I encourage you to show Mark some love across. Yes, said to be in Genesis Pass. That's hilarious. But again, seriously, thank you guys for everything. Enjoy the rest of you guys' time. We will let you guys know who will be on the wheel for next week, and we can be able to have a fantastic session next week. Take care, guys.